Okay, Craig Lutz.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome back. I'm going to try to connect what I'm talking today to one of our precepts. We value patience with ourselves and others. We don't rush to judgment. And this is particularly about patience with myself and the way that I've tended to judge my abilities. So if you have been in ninth grade seminar or research in the community, you're probably familiar with the research of Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck. If you don't remember, she has a theory that everyone has their own theory internally, theory of intelligence and ability that she calls mindset. And these theories lie on a spectrum. On one hand, you can believe that intelligence and abilities are innate capacities that you're born with them. She calls this a fixed mindset. Or that your abilities are qualities that can be cultivated, that they grow with practice. She calls this a growth mindset. And it turns out it's a tremendous advantage to have a growth mindset. If you believe that ability and intelligence can be improved, you have every reason to work hard, persist, and actually get better. On the other hand, if you believe that you just are the way you are, whether it be dumb or stupid, athletic or not athletic, putting in effort doesn't make much sense. Not believing that you can grow actually inhibits growth. So that's the theory. I want to talk about how this has kind of played out in my life. So this is where I went to elementary school. And many of you, I've really been impressed at how many students have a growth mindset. And this talks maybe a little bit about understanding others for you. But a chunk of you have theories of intelligence that are like mine, and hopefully this will be about understanding yourself. So I grew up with a fixed mindset, but I had no way of knowing it at the time. That's me. In second grade, there was no way for me to know that I had a fixed mindset because Dweck didn't write her first paper on what she then called implicit theories of intelligence until I was 10 years old, a couple of years after this. And it hadn't made it into any of my college education classes. Only in retrospect have I come to understand this through her research. What I did know as a kid was that I was pretty smart. Teachers, parents told me, you're very smart. And I kind of liked tests, especially this time. Kind of crazy. But getting a good score on a test, especially one that I didn't study for, made me feel validated. So I took pleasure in discovering things that I seemed to be good at. And I was curious, I liked learning new things. But I kind of enjoyed leisurely figuring things out, not putting too much effort into it. It was usually a few steps ahead of what the teacher was teaching, often a few years. On the other hand, I knew that I was not good at sports. I didn't really see any point of trying, because I knew that I was kind of born non-athletic. Every year they had the presidential fitness test, which I kind of thought of as the presidential physical humiliation test, where I got to show how I could barely throw a baseball, how I couldn't do a single pull-up, and how few sit-ups I could do. So my goal in gym class was kind of just to avoid being embarrassed. A growth mindset can be damaging when something comes easy, but it's even more so when you don't think you're good at something. And there was a little boy in one of Dweck's studies, when after he was taught about growth mindset, he said, "You mean I don't have to be stupid?" So a fixed mindset is kind of a trap. And it's a rush to judgment about yourself that you're not good at something, so you never can be. So it never really occurred to me to try. Either you were good at something or you weren't. I would try new things sometimes. Like in 6th grade, this really reveals my fixed mindset. There was a ping pong tournament. I'd never really played ping pong. And I thought, maybe I'll be good at ping pong. Maybe I'll win the tournament. Played the first game, immediately lost. Lost the elimination round. That was the end of my ping pong career. So I was pretty smart, but with a fixed mindset, I did not get very good grades. It was a struggle to get me to do homework. My goal was kind of just to do good enough, never any extra effort, because effort would indicate that I wasn't so smart. If I'm smart, I thought I shouldn't need to work. So this is a report that came home about my 100% on my test, but I'm missing 7 assignments, accounting for my 65% in the grade book. And then I had conferences with my parents and teachers, and they were always frustrated, asking me why I didn't apply myself. And and it kind of felt like they thought I was hiding the reason, but honestly, I didn't know. So I didn't get through grad school, teaching at my university, and coming to Bay, being a slacker. I did find motivation, especially in working with kids. I was determined to do a good job and willing to work hard when it actually mattered, and I was always motivated by curiosity. But even as I grew as a teacher, and this is an early selfie from my first job, my belief about what made me good at my job didn't shift until after I came to Bay. So Dweck studied implicit theories and motivation through the 1980s and 90s, but it wasn't until 2007 that her research made waves in the popular media. And I read this article, How Not to Talk to Your Kids, The Inverse Power of Praise. And it was talking about it was describing a well-praised fifth grader who, quote, didn't want to try things he wouldn't be successful at, and who, when something didn't come quickly to him, gave up almost immediately. As the article described this kid and other kids with fixed mindsets, it felt like it was describing me. And suddenly, the inexplicable struggles of my childhood became clear. And I started to see why work had seemed like a threat to my self-image. So I read Dweck's book, and it completely upended my understanding of why I was the way I was. And it was the beginning of a change in who I am. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that kind of changed. As you know from biology, the brain is not actually a muscle, but the muscle analogy is useful. Exercise makes your muscle stronger, exercising your brain makes it stronger. And literally, when you learn through practice, there are physical changes in your brain. Neurons grow and their connections strengthen. It's been an effort to shift my mindset. I catch myself thinking, you're no good at that. And I have to remind myself that new things are actually opportunities to grow, not just a risk of looking back. I have to remind myself to think of failure as discovering something that I've just taken the first steps towards getting good at. I remind myself that I'm supposed to be bad at things. Everything in life isn't supposed to be effortless. It isn't failure to put effort into getting better. You should be proud of putting in effort. And getting good takes good practice. Practice doesn't mean just repeating, doing something again and again that you already do well. And it also isn't just doing something badly over and over again. It really is about doing something badly, evaluating how you're doing, getting feedback on your performance, and modifying and doing that again and again. And that's kind of been my biggest change, is my approach to feedback. It used to be that when I got evaluations from teachers, or from my boss, or from students, I would look for all the good things. And with a growth mindset, I'm kind of tired of the praise, and I kind of crave looking for the criticism. Still have to steel myself for it, but that's really what I want to hear, because that's where I can improve. And that takes patience. So maybe I'm still insecure about some things like, actually, hold on a second. The last thing is that to shift mindset, it really took steeping myself in this new paradigm, and reading any one of these books would be a great way to do that. So, maybe I'm still a little insecure about things like basketball, but even being athletic seems like something I can grow into now. Rewiring my brain to understand that it can be rewired has changed my motivation and expanded what seems possible. So I'm very glad that I'm growing into a growth mindset. Thank you.